Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning. Hello to everyone. Hello to Falcons fans here, there, and everywhere. Good morning and good Thursday to everyone. I hope all is well. I hope you guys are doing well and looking forward this morning to talking Falcons football with you. And as luck would have it, my headset microphone is working and everything. So good morning, good morning, good morning to everyone. So, what are we getting into this morning on a Thursday? Well, first things first, happy Falcons Thursday to everybody. And seeing a few articles out here this morning, or last night or whenever, I think this morning I saw an article where the Falcons, in free agency, had an interest in Mike Evans, right? And so I'm going to play a little game called What If this morning. Now, we'll really get deep into it later in the show, but can you just imagine, if you would walk with me for just a sec, can you just imagine if the Falcons had signed Mike Evans, what that would look like? You've got a roster of Mike Evans, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. You still got Bijan. You still are able to go out and sign some of the other Falcons that you signed. That would be pretty interesting. I tell you what, you'd have two big physical receivers. To that'd be interesting. That would be a very interesting dynamic. Had the Falcons signed Mike Evans. So Um, sometimes it's just interesting. I don't know, playing the what if game or essentially just thinking about a lineup, right now where if you'd sign Mike Evans, like just what that would mean for opposing teams going up against the Falcons. Like Kirk Cousins to Mike Evans, Kirk Cousins to Drake London. That that would be quite something. Like that would be interesting. So I don't know. It didn't happen, and guess what? I am perfectly fine with that. I'm fine with the additions of Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore and Ray Ray McLeod and everybody else. I think the Falcons have truly cultivated uh, or upgraded rather their receiving core and cultivated a culture of speed and precision. So, it's just sometimes it's fun to just imagine, right? Like what if, which is the theme of today's show. The theme of today's show is what if. There's a show on Marvel, I'm sorry, on the Disney Channel made by Marvel called What If. And it's essentially, I don't know if you want to call it a do over, but essentially, I guess, a re editing or a reversion of a story. Or comic book that was told in Marvel, and it's essentially saying, well, instead of this happening, what if this happened, right? So just all sorts of possibilities in the universe. I just thought that was interesting to see. That Wow, what if the Falcons had signed Mike Evans? Like that's just it's interesting. So anyway, just a thought that'd be interesting. The article is by Daniel Flick, and yeah, check it out. It's interesting. If for nothing else, it's a good stroll down the what if aisle. So anyway, next article by Michael Cunningham of the AJC, and it essentially says, "Good luck to the new Falcons assistants with helping produce a good pass rush." Um, and they are talking about the Falcons defensive line coach, Mr. Rogers, and our outside line, Mr. Rogers, and our outside linebackers coach, Mr. Smith. That's the way it's worded, folks, so don't get mad at me. But anyway, he's essentially saying that the Falcons do not have any star pass rushers, and as such, uh, you know, I don't know. Good luck with them creating that, right? Good luck with them creating a defensive culture where, you're getting to the quarterback. And while, I mean, I have to give him this. We don't have any household names as far as pass rush is concerned. We definitely have interior linemen that can help out our pass rushers. So when I say interior lineman, I mean, you know, left defensive tackle, nose tackle, right defensive tackle, right? Or, insert your pass rusher wherever. But if you can generate pressure on the inside, or at least a push from the inside of the defensive line, then it makes the job easier for the pass rushers because at a certain point, you're going to have to slide over and double team the interior rush, which makes it easier for the guys on the outside, right? So for me, it's going to come down to scheme, right? It's going to come down to scheme. Like, legitimately, what are we doing? What are we doing? Um, when it comes to pressure generated from the inside. And I think that our inside or interior defensive linemen are some of the best. Well, they're the best that we've had, right? So if you look at Grady Jarrett, just Grady Jarrett alone, last year, when you look at our defense before he was injured, we were ranked sixth in some categories. Maybe pass rush, stopping the run, whatever. When he went out, we dropped from 6th to 23rd. That's not an accident. That is not an accident, right? Anyamata, when he went out, to me, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. So we have these two coming back healthy, right? We have Kentavious Street, who was very good last year, very good last year. We have Eddie Malcolm. I mean, if we get him the 2019 version, good luck with that because he's going to have to occupy two blockers by himself. Um, we have some others. We got Rook, who we just drafted, who, again, Rook looks pretty good. Rook was all green. Rook Arroyo was all green in every area, in every category from last year. All green. So, guess what? You add all of that up, that means you're going to get bend. That means you're going to get pressure. That means you're going to control the line of scrimmage from the inside, right? Which again, for your exterior pass rushers, it makes it easier because the tackle on the other end doesn't know what to do. Wait a minute, we've got this pressure coming from inside. I got to help this guy. Oh, wait. What about my guy on the end? Wait, and it's for just a second, it's going to cause indecision. And if we can do that enough times, we'll be fine. Again, I will take our front seven over anyone. And lest we not forget, guys, we're going to scheme, right? We're going to scheme for success. Well, what does that mean? Well, that essentially means that, we come up in one set or one format or one position or one defense, but we're really doing something else. To me, if I was a quarterback, the most difficult thing to read is a 3-4 defense in a third down situation because you can literally bring 4, 5, 6, 7 guys on the line of scrimmage and not know who's coming, especially if you're playing zone. So I think that's going to have a very big impact on number one, how we rush the passer, but number two, our success. Last but not least, we're going to be in zone, I'd say 65 to 70% of the time. So you don't really have to worry about man to man coverage again, except 30% of the time, right? So if you're in a zone, it's a little more forgiving and you can bring guys up on the line because you don't know who's coming. And the quarterback and the offensive line of the opposing team have to look at our sets, have to look at where we are, have to look at the position that we're in and make the decision. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. So, again, um, I do think that, the author has a point, the writer has a point that, we do not have household names as far as pass rushers are concerned. But I'm not fearful because, again, guys, we got 42, 40 something sacks last year, and we didn't really have a household name then. We had guys like Calais Campbell, and a few other guys, and we were able to generate pressure. And this is with half our defensive line injured. Again, lest we not forget, Troy Anderson got hurt early last year. So that meant you couldn't rush Caden Ellis because Caden had to be in coverage. Well, Troy Anderson's back. We have Caden Ellis. We have Nate Landman. Our front seven is better than last year. And last year, when healthy, they were pretty darn good. So I'm not, again, I'm not going to say that we're going to have 70 sacks, but I'm going to say I'm not really worried about it because I do think we're going to generate pressure. I do think we are going to have a healthy amount of sacks, right? And just because you don't lead the world in sacks doesn't mean you can't be an effective defense because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is throw the quarterback off his spot. So if it's a five-step drop back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you got a hand in his face, if you got somebody bearing down his throat, well, guess what? Now he may have to change course. Now he may have to pivot. Now that first, second, or third option may not be there, right? Hey, down, set, hut, drop back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I got a hand in my face. Okay, let me step out. Oh, that's not there anymore. Okay, let me go to that's covered, right? And so maybe you force him to throw an interception. Maybe you force him to throw late. Maybe you force him to scramble for a few yards and you tackle him. But either way, if you pressure him and throw him off his game, that makes a big difference. So much of the NFL is timing. So much of an effective pass game is timing. 1, 2, 3 step throw. Guys, there's so many times in the NFL, the quarterback doesn't even see the end result, right? He's coming to the line, he's looking at the defense. Okay, you know, they're in, I don't know, 3, 4. They are, I've got one single high safety, or at least it looks that way. They're in cover two, right? Cover two, generally, the middle's going to be open, and you have to throw it. If you're going to throw it up the sideline, or if you're going to throw it out, it has to be behind the cornerback and in front of the safety. Well, sometimes that takes timing, guys. So a lot of times, if your of course, your pass rushing, your primary objective is to get to the quarterback. But your secondary objective, if you can't get to him, throw him off his step, make him have to pivot, throw off his timing, right? And I think with our current defensive group, I think we'll do that. I think we'll do that in spades. I'm very confident in our defensive line. Again, I think our front seven, if we can stay healthy, top five in the league, if not top three. Top five in the league. Lest we not forget, Aaron Donald, Mr. Aaron Donald is retired. Okay. And in a recent interview, Raheem called Grady Jarrett, a version of Aaron Donald. He said he had Aaron Donald qualities. And to be honest, he's not the first one to say that. He's not the first one to think that. I thought that, right? You guys better recognize who Grady Jarrett is. Again, go back to the Super Bowl. We know the end results, but rookie year, Grady had 3 sacks in that Super Bowl, right? On Mister He who will not be named, Mister Tom Brady. My buddy Jack from One Time from the Fan really has a thing about Tom Brady and saying his name. I'll let him tell you that the next time we're on that show, but it's a funny story. But anyway, Brady had 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. So, and guess what, guys? Grady, I would say for the first time in his career, he's got some homies with him, right? He's got you again, David Onyemata, okay? Big boy from Chicago, Eddie Malcolm, who's been out the past years. I call him the, runaway defensive tackle, which kind of isn't fair. I mean, but whatever. But if he stays around and if he is anything like the 2019 version that we've seen, oh my God. Can you imagine? You're not going to run the ball. You're not ever going to run the ball. Good luck with that. But if you can get that push from the inside, guys, our exterior linemen, right? Our defensive ends, right? Ebiketie, Carter, Bryce, Trice. I'm sorry, Trice. These guys are going to have a field day. Caden Ellis. Caden Ellis is a very, very, very good pass rusher. And if he doesn't have to cover anybody, good luck with that. So I'm not as worried. I'm not as worried as most people are about our pass rush because I think number one, you use what you got, right? You use the strengths that you got. So if you have newbies or inexperienced, defensive ends, but your interior is really good, you scheme for that. You stunt for that. You design plays where you got one guy going in, one guy going out. You know what I mean? You move players around. Some of the guys that we drafted this year are very versatile. That was again one of the traits that we were looking for in defensive linemen. So Trice is versatile. Dorless is versatile. Rook is versatile. You look at Rook Arroyo, all of his categories, all of his metrics on his draft sheet, and I invite you to take a look at it. They're all green, right? And for those of you who don't know, you have green, I believe yellow and orange or red. Green is good, yellow, orange, red bad. His entire metric card was good. So Rook is a stud. Trice is a stud. Dorless, I'm really excited about. And don't forget the big boy we drafted from Georgia that's just going to eat up blocks like Pac-Man does power pellets. That's a old school saying. So those of you who don't know who Pac-Man is, it's a video game. He eats the power pellets, whatever. Look it up. But yeah, man, I'm just saying that push from the inside is going to help our exterior linemen. And we got speed. So again, guys, I don't necessarily think that I don't think that it's a bad thing. I'm not saying we lead the world in sacks. I'm not saying that, right? Because at the end of the day, coaching can only go so far, scheme can only go so far. And we have guys, I'm not going to say they're ineffective. Some of them are unproven. Some of them may mature this year into the studs we love, right? But I'm not as concerned as the author of this article is. So I just thought that'd be interesting to share with you guys. All right. Our next topic is going to be the impact of Justin Jefferson's record deal contract that he got a few days ago and what that means for the Falcons. And for those of you who are unaware, Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year, $140 million deal, which is going to average maybe 35 million a year on paper. Now, I'm not sure if all of that is guaranteed. I'm not sure. I don't think all of it is guaranteed, but it essentially is going to make him a $35 million man for a couple of years. Right. So let's think about for a second. $35 million on one player. Now, I know that the salary cap is going to continue to go up, and that's a good thing. But we got Drake London coming up. We got Kyle Pitts coming up. And both of them, and maybe you're talking 3 or 4 years from now, right? Or at least 2 or 3 years from now. So you have a little bit of time. But if you think about it, you can see the need for the Falcons to sign Kirk Cousins because you may have to make a choice in a couple of years as to whether, okay, who we're going to keep. We're keeping Drake or we're keeping Kyle. You may have to do that because you may have to end up, if it's 35 million now, what if the next one is 37, 38, or 40 million? I mean, think about that. Right now, Kirk Cousins is making 45 million a year, and that's not even top tier. I think Lamar's making 52, right? The next contract for Dak is supposedly 60 million. Think about that, guys. You have the ultimate quarterback. You have the best quarterback in the league, the best receiver in the league. That alone right there is $100 million. Just think about that. So the Falcons may have to make a choice in a couple of years. Is it going to be Drake or Kyle? And I bring this up to say, if you really look at some of these contracts, you can understand the Falcons' moves that they made this year. I think they were genius. I think they were absolute geniuses to do it. Well, why do you say that, T. Will? Well, think about it. You got Kirk for 45 million, but right now you're paying Drake on the cheap. You're paying Kyle on the cheap. You're paying Bijan on the cheap. You're paying Tyler Algier on the cheap. You're paying AJ until next year on the cheap. Think about that, right? So you had all of these pieces in place. It makes perfect sense why you would go and get Kirk Cousins. And if you really think about it, it makes sense why you would go and get Penix. Well, why do you say that, Terry? I mean, what are you saying? Like, why? I don't. You're going to draft Penix at 8. That's just stupid. Why would you say that, T. Will? What are you doing? Right? Like you had your podcast on yesterday and your mic was off. What the hell, man? What are you saying? Well, again, let's go back. Right? Let's go back. So the Falcons are about to receive a punishment for tampering. And while my counterpart on One Time for the Fan, Mr. Jack Spade, my homie, my mentor, my guy, feels like it's going to be worst case scenario. I think he said third or fourth round. I don't agree with that, Jack. I think it's going to be at a minimum a second round pick. It could be multiple picks and it's going to be money. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the NFL is embarrassed. The NFL is embarrassed. And whenever you embarrass someone in charge, the penalty is always worse. Okay? I'm a Gen Xer, which means my parents believe in spankings or whoopings. They got after it. One of the worst I ever got. One of the worst I ever got was for embarrassing my mom. Embarrassing her, right? I had to be 3 or 4 years old, and we went to Buster Brown, which at the time was like a trendy shoe store or whatever. And you millennials, you probably don't even know what Buster Brown is. I don't even know if Buster Brown is still in existence. But anyway, long story short, I wanted this pair of shoes. I like fell in love with these shoes. They were just great, and I wanted them. And for whatever reason, I don't know if they didn't have my size. I don't remember, but you know, my mom decided not to get them. Well, this didn't sit well with me, so I just started doing what kids do and falling out and crying and screaming and just embarrassing her. So she collected me up. She put me in my seat. She drove home. She was quiet and she got after it when we got home. I never did that to her again. I never did that to her again. So, again, the NFL was embarrassed because whatever the gaffe, whatever the mistake is, it happened during an interview. The world knows about it. Now, people have been tampering for years, and they'll continue to do it as long as no one finds out about it. But if you get your hand caught in that cookie jar, you got to pay the price, and the NFL is embarrassed. So I legitimately feel like there's a good possibility they at least take a second round pick or a first or multiple ones and some money. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that next year you probably won't be able to get a quarterback because you might not have a first round pick. You might not have a second round pick, which makes the drafting of Michael Penix a genius move. A genius move. So let's review that. Let's walk that back. Let's think about that for a second. You're telling me the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins for 45 million, but it's essentially a 2-year deal, right? I mean, yeah, you can pay him the third year, and if we win the Super Bowl, gladly pay him third year. Hell, if we win 2 Super Bowls, let him play his contract out. But it's essentially guaranteed for 2 years, right? So you got Kirk Cousins, who averages 4,500 yards a year, signed for the next 2 years. You got Drake on the cheap. You got Bijan on the cheap. You got Kyle on the cheap. You got Tyler on the cheap. So for the next 2, 3 years, you have all of these weapons, all of these accoutrements together. And just in case stuff goes bad, you got Michael Penix over there. And for those of you who was like, he was hurt, whatever, well, guess what? He's going to have at least 2 years to heal. The more I see the landscape of what is going on in today's NFL, the smarter the Falcons get. Because again, as a GM, you have to consider context. You have to make moves for today that will help you. But for the most part, you also have to see down the road and do some forecasting. So I do think that this $35 million contract will impact the Falcons, but thank God it won't impact us for the next 2 or 3 years. But I do think it will impact us because receivers, great receivers. Now, mind you, Justin Jefferson, some would argue, is the best in the league. Um, Great receivers are not cheap, and they don't grow on trees, right? So I thought that was interesting. Last but not least, well, almost last, Tyler Algier. What impact will Kirk Cousins have on Tyler Algier? Now, me personally, I think Tyler's going to eat. I know Bijan is loves Kirk right now, but I think Tyler could be one of the Falcons that is impacted the most because guess what? Tyler does not have to run against 8-man, 9-man sets. Let's be real. And again, no disrespect to anybody. I don't play the game. I don't put on a uniform. I don't go out and hit. That's not me. I'm 53 years old. I watch with a beer in hand and some food, typically, right? Maybe a snack, whatever. I don't put on the uniform. But with that being said, you guys know what we had at quarterback the past couple of years. So it was obvious we were going to run. We are going to run in the first quarter, run in the second quarter, run in the third, run in the fourth, and then pass off of that. So our running backs faced a lot of 8, 9-man sets in the box. Well, you can't do that now. So yes, you got Bijan Robinson, who is quick and darts and one cut and go and sets up blocks and very good at bouncing off, you know, tackles and just an absolute stud. But you got Tyler Algier, who's a bowling ball back there, who now may be running with 7 in the box or 6 in the box. Because guess what, guys? We got burners. We got burners. We got burners in spades. We got guys that can run routes, and we got a quarterback that can get it there. So you better not put 8 or 9 in the box, or you're going to pay for it quickly. What does that mean for Mr. Tyler Algier? Well, again, instead of running against 8 or 9 in the box, he's running against 7. So if he can break that first barrier, oh my goodness, that big fella, that's a lot to bring down, man. That's a lot to bring down. Good luck, cornerbacks out there. Tell you what, uh, 3rd and 5. He's past the first, all that coming at you. That's a business decision, man. So I think Tyler is going to really benefit not only from Kirk's presence, but his tutelage. I think Tyler has a great year. I don't get me wrong. I think Bijan has a great year. I think Drake has a great year. I think Kyle certainly has a great year. But I think Tyler is really going to benefit it now because he's going to run in sets that he probably hadn't seen ever. And it's going to be easier for him because, these guys are now going to have to consider the pass. Look at the weapons that they got. You got Darnell Mooney. You got Kyle Pitts. You got Drake London. You got Bijan. You got Ray Ray. You got Rondell Moore. How you gonna keep track all these guys? You can't double everybody. Well, I tell you what, you better not do. You better not come up with 8 or 9 in the box. So yeah, I think Tyler is really, really, really going to benefit from having Kirk in the backfield. I can't wait to see that dynamic. So there you go. All right, guys. Last but not least, and my intention was to do this yesterday, but yesterday was a crazy day. So one of the segments that we're going to add to this show is called What If Wednesday, right? What If Wednesday. And it's typically geared to the Falcons. It doesn't have to be. There may be some Wednesdays where it's not, but for the most part, it's geared to the Falcons. But essentially, those of you who are, have the Disney Channel and watch Marvel or read Marvel comics, you know about what if comics. What if this? What if that? Those of you who are legit comic book readers, if we go to the Daredevil universe, Elektra died. And there's a what if comic called What If Elektra Had Lived, and so on and so on and so on. Well, in this what if edition, What If Thursday, we're going to look at what if the Falcons had won the Super Bowl in 2016? First of all, I might not be alive because the party that would have been experienced at the Wilson House would have been epic. I wouldn't have gone into work for a week. My boss knew that. And yeah, that party would have been epic. I don't know if I would have survived. I don't. It would have been great. My brother Eric Parker was there. And let me tell you something, that would have been a party. So I don't know. But my question is, if we win the Super Bowl in 2016, do we ever even try and trade for Deshaun? Um, golly, quarterback who's now with Cleveland, can't think of his name. Do we ever try and trade for him? Do we ever do that? Because think about it, guys. If the Falcons won the Super Bowl, when the Falcons win the Super Bowl, whatever coach is coaching at the time more than likely just bought himself 5 years. Don't get me wrong. I love my Braves. I love my Braves. I love my Bulldogs. But the Falcons are my clear favorite. They are my favorite team in the world. They are like Oreo cookies and ice cream to me. There's just not a better combination, right? They're like peanut butter and jelly. They're just the jam. Whoever is coaching, when the Falcons win the Super Bowl, I can tell you, has bought himself 5 years, if not 7 or 8. So if the Falcons had won the Super Bowl in 2016, I dare to say we never even go through the Arthur Smith years because Dan Quinn is still here, right? If the Falcons win that Super Bowl in 2016, it gives a certain amount of legitimacy to all Atlanta sports, to all Atlanta sports. Number one, it kills the narrative. Now, some would argue, well, the Braves did that in 2021. The Braves had won it in 95, but they hadn't won it since then. They won it in 21. They took on all comers. They're the champions of the world, and I love them. I love my Braves. But the Falcons, okay, who have had many a missteps in the postseason, if they had won that game in 2016, I really think it changes the narrative and the landscape for sports everywhere. I definitely think Matt would have retired a Falcon, and he did anyway, but I don't think he would have gone anywhere. I don't know if Julio would have gone anywhere, but I don't think he would have gone anywhere. I think Dan Quinn, if the Falcons win the Super Bowl in 2016, I think Dan Quinn is probably still here. There's a good chance Dan Quinn is still here. And if we do win the Super Bowl in 2016, is Matt LaFleur made the offensive coordinator? Right? Because no disrespect to Sarkeesian, but I don't necessarily think that was a good call. And Steve Sarkeesian is a great offensive coordinator. He's a great head coach. I believe he coaches for Texas now. But he was not a disciple of Shanahan's system. And I think Matt LaFleur would have been the better choice. And I think we didn't go with him because there was such a desperate attempt to get back to the Super Bowl. and Matt LaFleur just wasn't looked at as having enough experience to do it at the time. But if we win that Super Bowl, you have to ask yourself, would Dan Quinn have been confident enough to say, okay, well, we got this Super Bowl. You know what? Instead of picking this guy, I'm going to pick Matt LaFleur. And if he does pick Matt LaFleur, do we get a second one? Or at a minimum, do we at least make another appearance in the Super Bowl? Right? I mean, let's we not forget, you know, if we make that interception in the first half, the Falcons could have gotten to the Super Bowl anyway and played the Patriots again. But imagine if we won that Super Bowl in 2016, I think everybody collectively relaxes because we would have got there, guys. We would have had the crown jewel. We would have brought legitimacy to our team, our city, our franchise, and we wouldn't be in a rush to make a decision. And I don't care what anybody says. I think we were in a rush to make a decision. Guys, that was one of the most gut wrenching losses ever. I remember everything about that day. I remember the conversations that I had with my brother, Eric Parker, at the time saying, "Yeah, it's not over. It's not over. We need to run the ball." And there was just this unescapable feeling that what we were doing was just not enough. I don't think we hire Arthur Smith. I don't even think we get to Arthur Smith if we win the Super Bowl in 2016. I think Dan Quinn is still the head coach to this day, or at least up until last year. I don't know. Would we have made the playoffs in 2018 if we're coaching with Matt LaFleur? Matt Ryan had one of the greatest campaigns ever in 2018. Would we have made if Matt LaFleur is calling that offense, would we have made the Super Bowl? Don't know, guys. But again, what if, right? Just a fun little segment. So, with that being said, guys, please like and subscribe. Those of you who are watching from YouTube, it is at Terry Wilson for my ATL Sports 1 on YouTube. Again, please like and subscribe. I thank you for your time this morning. I thank you for joining me. I thank you for, interacting with me. And I look forward to seeing you, talking with you, and talking Falcons tomorrow. My shout outs. Number one, thank God. Thank him for waking me up this morning. Thank him for everything he does. If you don't know him, you need to get to know him because he is an awesome God. Thank you. I want to thank my wife, Kimberlyn, who is always there for me, always doing stuff for me, always looking out for me. Brought me some what's that? Gosh, Mongolian beef last night. I love Chinese food. I love me some Mongolian beef, but I didn't even ask her and she brought it. And I thank God for her. I thank God for my kids. Thank God for my friends. Thank God for my content creator friends who have really been supportive. Shout out to Berto from 95 North. Thank you. Shout out to Chris from 95 North. Of course, shout out to Chase at DCU. And last but not least, shout out to Mr. Jack Spade, who is my mentor and friend and continues to be just such a driving force and helping me to get this thing going. And shout out to my brother, Eric Parker. Love you, bro. Shout out to my brother, Victor Wilson. Love you, bro. Uh, yeah, last but not least, you guys have a great, amazing, successful day. Be safe, enjoy yourselves out there, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for your time and have a great day. So long.